It has been more than a week since Governor Gretchen Whitmer secured another 4 years in office with an 11-point win over Republican Tudor Dixon. Not only that, but Democrats won majorities in both the House and Senate for the first time in decades.
Earlier today, political reporter Rick Albin sat down with the governor to talk about how she might work with that new majority to achieve Democrats' priorities, and if she really will serve 4 more years or has something else on her mind.
You wanted to fix the damn roads. And in order to do that in your first term, you decided you needed to bond some money because the legislature wasn't willing to talk to you about a tax increase at the gas tax, right? The legislature has since put some more money into infrastructure funding, and the federal government has come up with a big bipartisan bill that will help. But that's not enough. It's ongoing and it's going to be there. And the mechanism for funding roads, which is the gas tax largely, is going to become less and less reliable as we get more and more electrified. You were not able in your first term to get a new stream of funding. Is that something you think you can get? And a little inside ball, but I think it's interesting, does it also change the formula? In other words, does PA 51 have to be looked at and decide a different way to split up money and where it comes from?
I think what we're going to need to do is to get a group together to start putting a informed plan on the table, and one that can be comprehensive and long-term. The auto industry is going through a historic transformation, and a lot of that work is happening here in Michigan, and that's great for our economy. But we also have an outdated mode of funding our roads, as does every other state. No state has figured this out yet. Some have got some pilot projects that they've done to determine how you might measure miles traveled, for instance. So I think we're up to this task. I think it's going to take, though, a lot of work. It's not going to come from one person. It's not going to come from one side of the aisle. This has to be a plan that is comprehensive, forward-looking, and inclusive of our locals and our state highway system. So there's work to be done in this space, but I do believe we're up to this challenge, and it's something that's important to me.
I am told that the lame duck session in this legislature is going to be more lame than normal. In other words, I think very little, if anything, is going to happen. Is there anything that you would like to see the current legislature do, understanding that you could probably get that done just as well after January 1st?
Yeah, I will be interested to see if the Republican leadership wants to come back and do anything before they leave town. I do think that there are some things that we could check off the list. One of them is, Michigan has got a really important voice in national elections, but we go so late in the primary system that our voice is muted because of it. Whether you're Republican or a Democrat, I think moving Michigan up in the primary system would be a good thing for the state of Michigan. It would be a good thing for the country because our voices are important. And so that is one of a handful of things I think might make sense for us to get done in the coming weeks.
That is not just up to the legislature, right? Right. The DNC and the RNC would have to sign off too. We
have to change it via statute to permit it, and then work on DC. That work in DC is being done on both sides of the aisle. The biggest question is, are we going to change the legislation?
Well, I'm going to ask you the question you've been asked all week, and you don't want to talk about it. It's a conversation you say you're not driving, but the conversation is there. And you talk about moving up the presidential primary. Is that a primary in which you'll be participating?
No.
There's
nothing else to say, no.
I mean, that's pretty unequivocal, and in an environment that could be changing.
I've been unequivocal from the get-go, but for whatever reason people want to keep writing articles, I'm focused on Michigan. I ran for 4 more years as governor of the state of Michigan, and I'm going to serve them.